We are here with Hyundai's newest people hauler, the all-new Custin. This is what they call the Custo in other markets. It's a minivan MPV of sorts, and it's a 7-seater that's very plush and very luxurious. On the outside, it looks clearly like a Hyundai. It has this signature Hyundai grille that also has that familiar light signature that you see in the Tucson. They also added a chrome trim here at the top with an embossed Custin engraving. I would say the design here is pretty balanced. You've got the aggressiveness from the front grille. The two-tone alloy wheels on the sides also look pretty sporty, very macho, but overall it still looks pretty clean. Now, in terms of dimensions, the Custin measures 4,950 millimeters long, 1,850 millimeters wide, and 1,710 millimeters tall with a 3,055 millimeter wheelbase. As you may know, this is a cousin of the Kia Carnival, and while it's slightly smaller, it does have some resemblance, even if it's not, you know, a stablemate. You see these jagged diamond-like trim on the side mirrors, on the door handles, and on the black plastic cladding underneath. You can actually find those in the C-pillar of the Kia Carnival, which is actually pretty cool. We're here with the top spec variant, which sits on 18-inch two-tone alloy wheels. The lower trim gets 17-inch wheels. Now here at the back, you do have a slightly busier and quirkier design. It's not as simple as the front. It does have these C-shaped taillights that actually stretch the length of the liftgate. It kind of reminds me of the Creta. It's very unorthodox and it might be a bit too much for some people. For me, it's okay. I won't say I like it, but I don't necessarily dislike it. Underneath, you still get more of the black plastic cladding, which also features that jagged trim I was talking about earlier. So I guess there's nothing left to do but check out the inside. So now we're here in the back of the new Custin, and we decided not to drive it anyway because we're only limited to within the limits of Santa Elena today for today's drive. So speed limit is 30 kph, so I won't be able to test the powertrain and the transmission anyway, even the handling. So dito lang kami sa likod. Besides, if you're buying something like this anyway, you'd prefer to be in the back, which is where Dinzo and I are in right now. And how is the third row, Sir Dinzo?
Surprisingly, not bad. I'm not gonna call it roomy, but for short 30-minute drives, I think the occupant will be okay. I'm a pretty large guy. I like the seat height. It's quite decent again, and it's okay, basically.
Space here in the second row is also decent. I do wonder if there was someone taller in the driver's seat or taller here in the middle. Kung magkakasya pa ba, kung kunwari tatlong 6'2", baka it might be a bit tighter. But nevertheless, right now it's comfy enough for me. I do have a lot of amenities here. I have, of course, these power captain seats with ottomans. I have seat ventilation for these, and I have a wireless charger here, bottle holders here in the middle, bottle holders on either side, and surprisingly, this sunscreen hides the rolling windows. For some reason, this has a window that rolls down, which is pretty unusual for a large MPV or a minivan, but it's a pretty cool feature. And another one we have here is the seat tray, which is similar to what you have in the Stargazer. This one has a push to eject cup holder on the side. You have this on both sides here at the back. What about you, Sir Dinzo? What amenities do you have in the back?
Not as much, definitely. There's a AC controller that controls the strength of the fan. 4 cup holders, bottle holders. But I do like the strength of the AC. There are 2 vents here that at maximum cold setting, it can cool the rear very well, I can say.
I was actually expecting it to be pretty hot today because we have the sunroof open, but surprisingly, it's pretty cool here. The AC is set to maximum as well, but still pretty impressive. Yeah. And here in the second row, you don't have AC vents on the ceiling, so You only have these two here in the middle, sa baba, but they do the cooling job pretty well. And yeah, so it's pretty comfortable. And right now though, we're only driving inside Santa Elena, and the roads here are properly paved, so they're not nearly as bad as what you'll get in Metro Manila. So right now I can say it's pretty comfortable. I'm curious to see what the ride will be like when you're outside, pag nasa simento ka na and marami ng lubak. But tingin ko naman komportable, especially since the seats are soft and tahimik sa loob eh. I barely heard the motorcycle that just passed by. So I'm sure it's gonna be comfortable. I know we said earlier that we weren't gonna test drive the Custin, but science nuts eh. So we're here anyway. I'm behind the wheel of the Custin, and so far, first impressions, it feels very familiar. It's very Hyundai-like. It looks like the Staria and the Tucson's interior. The Staria because of the layout and just how big it feels from behind the wheel, and the Tucson because of the center console. Now, what I noticed here is that, which is actually a good thing, is that it isn't like the Staria in terms of ergonomics, because it has the parking brake and the auto hold feature here. If you remember, the Staria had those here on the dash, under the dash actually, which makes it pretty weird. It's not that big of a deal, but at least here everything's within reach. The only difference I see here, which I haven't seen in other Hyundais yet, is the faux wood trim on the dash. It's actually light brown. It's light colored, which is something pretty unusual in faux wood trim in most vehicles. You don't really get that. You usually get the dark brown finish. So it's a nice touch because the rest of the interior is light colored as well. So it feels very, very relaxed, very comfortable inside. Now, in terms of driving, as I said earlier many times before, we are driving within the confines of Santa Elena, and we're not gonna be able to really test out the 1.5 liter engine. Frankly, the 1.5 liter turbo gasoline engine in the Custin, while it does churn out 168 horsepower, it does feel a bit small for this minivan because the Carnival and the Staria share a 2.2 liter turbo diesel, and even the Tucson gets a slightly bigger engine, which is a 2 liter turbo diesel as well. This does feel a bit smaller, but I won't be able to comment on how it's going to feel on the highway because we're just driving within the limits of this small neighborhood. But what I can say is that it feels very comfortable when you're behind the wheel. Steering is very light and visibility is very good from the driver's seat. You have these large windows and this large windshield. You can see everything clearly. I'm sure it's going to be a pleasant vehicle to drive. I'm just not sure if with 7 people on board with some cargo, you're going up, say, Tagaytay or even Baguio, how it's gonna feel. I guess we'll have to wait until we're able to try this out in public roads before we can say anything about that. As far as prices go, the base Custin stickers for 1,770,000 pesos. This top spec trim we're driving goes for 2,080,000 pesos. So yeah, a lot more expensive than the Stargazer, but a bit more affordable than the Staria. That's exactly where it's at right now. What do you guys think? Does this fit well in Hyundai's local lineup? Let us know in the comments.